So, WWE superstar The Miz could be out of action for a significant amount of time after possibly sustaining an injury this past Sunday at WrestleMania Backlash in arguably one of the worst matches in WWE history. Now, that wasn't the fault of The Miz or Damian Priest or anything like that, but The Miz possibly, just possibly, tore his ACL in a match that involved zombies. I'm not making this up. It's a real significant injury to a top star in a match that involves zombies. Now, the injury didn't happen during a zombie involvement, but nevertheless, it's the worst thing for The Miz and just one of the worst matches ever. Now, The Miz reportedly suffered an injury during the Zombie Lumberjack match with Damian Priest at Sunday's WWE WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view. Now, there's no word yet previously on the severity of the injury, but F4W Online had reported that The Miz suffered a knee injury during the loss to Priest. Now, we'll touch on in a second the actual details of the injury, because this has been something that's kind of been developing over the last 48 hours or so. Yesterday's edition of Monday Night Raw saw John Morrison lose a non-zombie lumberjack match to The Miz, and there was no injuries present in that one. Not that the zombies are a reason for that. Nevertheless, Morrison did not confirm during his backstage interview on Raw, but he did say The Miz might never be the same after what happened with the zombies at the pay-per-view on Sunday. He dedicated yesterday's match to The Miz, saying he doesn't know where he is, but he loves him. Now, The Miz has not commented on the injury as of right now, at the time of recording, but he has been active on Twitter over the last few days to promote yesterday's Miz and Mrs. finale. He also commented on the Zombies Lumberjack match and posted a zombie-fled photo of himself, joking that he feels great after Sunday's loss. Now, as I mentioned, we do have some more information and some more reports when it comes to the severity of the injury and actually the injury itself, and it's not good. The prognosis is not good when it comes to The Miz. The Miz looks to be out of action for up to 9 months. As I mentioned, The Miz reportedly suffered a knee injury during that Zombie Lumberjack match disaster on Sunday to Damian Priest at WrestleMania Backlash. Now, he was kept off last night's Monday Night Raw. In an update, it was reported on the Wrestling Observer radio show that The Miz suffered a torn ACL at the pay-per-view. There's still no word on the severity of the tear, but the hope is that it was a partial tear. If it's a full tear, The Miz will need to undergo surgery and could be out of action for 7 to 9 months. PW Insider has added that The Miz will be getting checked on by the doctors this week to determine what's next. Now, the injury apparently occurred when Priest delivered a kick from the top rope or when he delivered an elbow drop to The Miz. You can kind of see, if you go back and watch WrestleMania Backlash, they do a spot where Priest jumps on The Miz and he kind of lands awkwardly on The Miz's knee. It's nothing to do with The Miz. And when I say it's nothing to do with The Miz, I don't mean to put any heat or anything like that on Damian Priest. Far, far from it. It's an unfortunate accident, and it's one of these things that happen, but Priest lands on The Miz's knee, and you can just see his knee caves in the wrong direction. That's what happens. The knee caves in the wrong direction, and obviously, it was very apparent that The Miz was suffering with some kind of injury pretty soon after that. I'm shocked, and I think The Miz actually did struggle on occasion at that match. Fortunately, it was towards the ending of the match, but The Miz really struggled to be standing on 2 feet when, after the injury, he got up. He could barely put any weight on his leg. His knee was bent because he couldn't straighten it out. Again, hopefully this is just a partial tear. Even if it's a partial tear, at some point he will need to get it fixed. You don't just tear your ACL partially or fully and not get it fixed. The thought process, and I guess the hope, is that if it is a partial tear, possibly it can be a kind of situation where he rehabs it, wears a knee brace, all that kind of stuff, but eventually he'll have to get it fixed. If it's a full tear, he won't be able to walk. He has to get it fixed now. So it depends on the severity of it. It's a massive shame, and to be honest, The Miz getting injured is beyond rare. This is the first time, as far as I'm aware. Now, as far as I'm aware, The Miz, I mean, he might have had some minor injuries throughout his career, maybe a concussion. I'm not saying a concussion's a minor injury by any stretch of the imagination, but any injury he's ever had has been relatively minor, that he's really never missed any television time. The only time The Miz has ever missed any television time throughout his career with WWE, and he's been on the WWE roster for like 15 or 16 years at this point. The only time The Miz has missed any kind of television time is because he's been away filming a movie, he's got television commitments, or he's off of TV selling an injury. Apart from that, He has never really, truly, legitimately had a big stretch of time off of television because of an injury, which is incredible, to be honest. I mean, we're talking 15, 16 years without sustaining a major injury. Part of the real impressiveness of The Miz, and it's kind of partial to his style in the ring. He's not overly flashy or anything like that. He makes his attention and he gets his spotlight by his ability on the mic. He's a good worker and a solid wrestler, but he doesn't do anything crazy, doesn't do anything over the top. And we've seen at this point that because of the way he works, The Miz has had incredible longevity in WWE, especially for a star that people didn't think was going to last more than a couple of years, maybe even 1 year in WWE. To have the run that he's had, 15 or 16 years, non-stop, constantly on television with no major injuries, it's staggering. And the only time he's got this injury is because of an accident in the ring. It's not because his body started to break down or he started to fall apart. He's one of the most durable superstars of all time in WWE. He's never had time off for an injury. So it might be the best thing that happens to him in terms of getting off, spending some time with his family, possibly, doing some more outside endeavors in terms of acting, television work, and possibly just a refresh of the character. Because let's face it, The Miz, and to be honest, what a year The Miz has had in terms of just ups and downs, and it's unbelievable, really. At the end of 2020, he cashes in the Money in the Bank during that match with AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, loses, and you think, right, The Miz, the Money in the Bank, 2020 was a write-off, doesn't happen. Eventually, he gets it back. He does successfully cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he becomes the WWE Champion for the second time in his career, 10 years after he last won it, defeats Drew McIntyre. He's only the WWE Champion for 2 weeks, loses the championship on Monday Night Raw to Bobby Lashley. Then he faces Bad Bunny at WrestleMania in a tag team match with John Morrison and Damian Priest, in really an incredible match. The performance that Bad Bunny put on in that match is incredible. You've got to give credit to everyone else in the match, though, as well, and The Miz was a big factor in that. So he has this incredible match with this big celebrity at WrestleMania, and right after that, he's now got an injury, and he's going to be out for the rest of the year, possibly into 2022. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions. Dropping the Money in the Bank, winning it back, winning the WWE Championship, dropping the WWE Championship, facing a celebrity at WrestleMania, having a great match, now getting an injury. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it just shows how much can change so quickly. And it's a shame because I was seeing these comments on social media on Sunday during the match, and the match was terrible. And again, that's nothing to do with Damian Priest or The Miz, far from it. Just the zombie lumberjack thing was ludicrous, and anyone still attempting to justify that as sports entertainment or good promotion are ridiculous. I mean, it's nonsensical if anyone even attempts to try and claim that's the situation, because it's not. But the thing that people were saying on social media that I do agree with is that Miz is the ultimate company guy. He's been with the WWE, as I mentioned, 15, 16 years. Never got injured. The most reliable guy on the roster. His body never breaks down. He says yes to everything. He makes the most out of every storyline, from stunt doubles to whatever. You name it, he makes the most out of it. And he tries to make the best out of bad creative at WrestleMania Backlash with a zombie lumberjack match, and he gets injured. And it's just really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Now, again, fingers crossed it's not as bad as first thought when it comes to him, because if there's anyone that deserves a break, it's The Miz. And like I said, maybe it could be the best thing that happens to him because he completely reinvents himself when he comes back. But it's unfortunate, and you hate to see anyone get a really severe injury like this. Now, speaking of injuries, Braun Strowman might also have received an injury at WrestleMania Backlash on Sunday. Braun Strowman may have suffered an injury to his ribs during the Raw brand main event of Sunday's WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view event, which saw WWE Champion Bobby Lashley retain his championship over Strowman and Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match. Now, Strowman did not appear on last night's post-Backlash edition of Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, and it was noted by MVP in the opening segment that the monster among men was dealing with broken ribs. Now, it remains to be seen if Strowman is suffering from a legitimate injury or not, as WWE often uses broken or bruised ribs as storyline injuries. Strowman has not made any public social media comments since Sunday's WrestleMania Backlash match, but he was seen clutching his ribs after the triple threat match. So I don't know what the situation is with Strowman. If he is injured, we go from one person in The Miz, who is incredibly durable, isn't getting any injuries, hasn't got any injuries for a really long time, and again, one of the most durable superstars in WWE history, to Braun Strowman, that are in the last, couple of years, the injury bug is starting to hit him a little bit now. He was scheduled for that feud against Drew McIntyre. Was it at TLC last year? He was injured. Did he suffer another injury earlier this year as well? He definitely suffered another one in 2020. And going back to even his developmental days, he had a really severe injury where he had a real bad back injury. And I think part of his back is fused to his pelvis or something like that, really severe. And he was lucky that I think he's lost partially some of the feeling in one of his legs. It was a real severe injury. And this is part of the problem, I suppose, with big guys in pro wrestling, is that Braun Strowman's nearly 7 foot tall. He significantly weighs less than he ever used to when he first came into pro wrestling. When he first came in, he was like 400 pounds, like 450 or something like that. Now he's about 300, maybe 350, but I mean, maybe closer to 300. He's lost a significant amount of weight. He's physically in the best shape he's ever been in. But the problem is sometimes with these big guys is it's a lot of weight to carry, and there's a lot of strain and pressure on the joints and the muscles, and things start to go. Especially, like I said, in those big guys. People like, say, the Big Show or Kane, they don't come around that often in that they don't really get injured. Now, Kane suffered a few injuries in terms of torn biceps and stuff like that. I think, looking back on it, that's just because of how ginormous he was. But the Big Show really haven't suffered that many injuries. And sometimes part of the problem, I mean, Big Show said this himself, when you're a giant, sometimes part of the problem when you're in a WWE schedule isn't necessarily the work that can cause you injuries or the matches or the bumps or anything like that. It's the travel. Being that size is really difficult just to get around in general. And I'm not saying Braun Strowman is a giant in the same way that the Big Show is a giant, but it does look like he has suffered a bit of the injury bug at the moment. Now, broken ribs, if they are legitimate, that's not torn biceps, that's not torn triceps, that's not your knees going or anything like that. That's an unfortunate injury that happens in the match. Again, we don't know if it's legitimate. Maybe it's just a case of getting Braun Strowman off of television, because what is he going to do on Monday Night Raw right now? There really is not a lot there for him. I don't know where the Braun Strowman character goes. I hated the feud with Shane McMahon. It was so poorly written, but their match at WrestleMania was good. Him being added to the WrestleMania Backlash triple threat was never the plan in the first place. The plan was for Braun Strowman to face Randy Orton after WrestleMania, but plans changed. Now Randy Orton's with Matt Riddle in the RK Bro tag team, which for me is a good thing. I really like that tag team. But I look at Strowman now on Raw and I say, where does he go? Honestly, where does he go? United States Championship, maybe? There isn't a ton of superstars that I go, yeah, I really want to see Strowman work with that guy. And talk about a shame, because again, this is a guy that 2017, 2018, red hot, absolutely red hot, and they have just driven this guy into the ground with poor booking and losing and losing and losing. And this is why I always say when it comes to baby faces, when they're challenging for world championships for the first couple of times, if they have to win. They have to win. Because look at Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is the perfect case study of why you can't have someone challenge for a championship over and over again and lose every single time, because your credibility just evaporates into nothing. And that's what happened with Braun Strowman. You can't build someone up as this undefeatable monster among men. Well, what kind of monster loses all the time? That's what Braun Strowman does. Not much of a monster, not much of a threat. Just because you're big doesn't mean you're intimidating. But when you lose all the time, if you see a bouncer outside a nightclub that's this big guy that's meant to guard the entry and stop people getting him, if you see him getting knocked on his ass every couple of weeks, you go, well, I have no trouble getting into that nightclub. It's a similar situation with Braun Strowman. So fingers crossed again. Same with The Miz. Fingers crossed he doesn't have a significant injury, but looks like the injury bug might have bitten him once again. Now, WWE in Saudi Arabia. It looks like WWE is nearing a Saudi Arabia return and getting back to doing their events in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, in a tweet that was posted yesterday, the Saudi General Sport Authority's Ministry of Sport tweeted a video package that shows stadiums in the country are reopening for soccer games, football, as I know it. Large public sporting events have been limited for the past 12 months due to the ongoing COVID-19 global pandemic. This news likely opens the door for a WWE return to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, WWE has not run a show in Saudi Arabia since the Super Showdown 2020 event that was held in February 2020 at the Mohammed Abdu Arena in Riyadh. But WrestleVotes reported back in April. Of course, WrestleVotes is an online Twitter account, very reputable and gets a lot of stuff very right. They reported back in late April that multiple WWE sources are indicating that a return to Saudi Arabia was, quote, very much on the table before the end of 2021. Now, WWE and the Saudi General Sports Authority announced in 2018 they were entering into a 10-year strategic multi-platform partnership to support the Saudi Vision 2013 initiative, which is the Kingdom's social and economic reform program. The deal called for 2 events to be held per year, but the COVID-19 pandemic forced delays in 2020. WWE visited Saudi Arabia for the greatest Royal Rumble and Crown Jewel in 2018, Super Showdown and Crown Jewel in 2019, and Super Showdown in 2020. Now, at the moment, there's no firm time frame on when WWE might return to Saudi Arabia this year. Of course, once we get official confirmation, we'll talk about it here on the channel. If I was to guess, and this is only a guess, as I mentioned, so I don't know. I really don't know the accuracy of this. If I was to guess, usually these Saudi shows are in February and October/November of every year. If they say they're going to return in October/November of 2021, that makes sense, because that, if we're currently following the same timeline that we are now in terms of things reopening, vaccinations, getting back to normality, restrictions being lifted, all that kind of stuff, November/late October seems reasonable to travel abroad and do a show. Now, again, that's very maybe optimistic of me. Anything can and will happen between now and then. If we assume that that's not the case, we've learned nothing from the past 18 months or so with this pandemic. So anything can and will change. I would assume, like I said, that WWE and the Saudi Kingdom are hoping for the same, and they'll probably stick to the same schedule that they would usually have. So that might be the situation there. To be honest, though, I really don't care. No disrespect to the Saudi fans, because I think the Saudi fans are great. They sell out those arenas every time, and they are actually a good audience, and they do react very well to the events that are put on there. If anything, I feel kind of, not that I feel bad, because they see a lot of stars, because a lot of stars come over for those shows, but I feel those shows are awful. Have we seen a good Saudi pay-per-view? No, they're really bad. They are really bad, and they're so nonsensical. Some of the matches we have seen at those shows, I mean, Brothers of Destruction versus DX, disaster. The best thing that we've seen is Titus O'Neil fall over. Goldberg versus The Undertaker, disaster. They've struggled to have a really great match at these shows. Goldberg versus The Fiend, disaster. I mean, honestly, these shows have featured some of the worst matches in recent WWE history. So do I want to see that? No. And I could get into, obviously, all the political stuff in terms of the treatment of women, treatment of homosexuals, the religious stuff as well. And people like Aleister Black can't travel, Sami Zayn can't travel. The list could go on and on and on. And that is completely egregious and not right. And the money side of things and all that kind of stuff. But fundamentally, the shows just aren't good as well. So I have no desire to see one anytime soon, but looks like we will be. Now, speaking of things we're going to see soon, new sets for Raw and SmackDown are coming soon, because WWE is reportedly planning new sets, and the plans are in the works. Now, it was reported yesterday by Andrew Zarian of the Matman podcast that WWE is working on new sets for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. This is apparently to go in line with the return of fans to live events in the summer, but those details have yet to be officially confirmed by WWE. Now, there's no word on what these sets are going to look like, any details regarding the sets, but it was noted that Raw and SmackDown will have their own distinct, unique looks. WWE recently switched up the sets for the Thunderdome, but these will be totally new sets and stages. Now, there's no word on when WWE plans on debuting the new looks for Raw and SmackDown, but it was noted that the sets are currently being built right now. So I'm always a fan. I spoke about this on Twitter earlier today. I'm always a fan of new sets. I'm a bit of a set mark, to be honest. I wish, and I think most people do, that we went back to these unique sets for everything, for pay-per-views. When I was growing up watching WWE, every pay-per-view had its own unique set, whether it was Backlash, Judgment Day, Vengeance, Great American Bash, TLC, Armageddon, Survivor Series, whatever. SummerSlam, every single event had its own distinct, unique set, and that's what made it feel great, that you tuned into this pay-per-view, which you had to buy, you tuned in, and it felt different, it felt big, it felt special. And with the whole LED universal sets and all that kind of stuff, things just started to look the same and feel the same. And it felt like if you watched Raw, SmackDown, or a pay-per-view, there was no difference to what you saw. And just having the sets and having just a slightly unique and different presentation, you need more than just graphics. You need more than just graphics to have something different. Especially when you're WWE and you're a billion-dollar company, you can't afford it. You can't afford it. LEDs are not the future. Go back to unique sets. And they kind of did this when it had the premiere week in 2019, when Raw had its season premiere on the USA Network and SmackDown had its debut on Fox. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, they actually debuted some new original sets, and they were distinct and they were different. You can see there, Raw is distinctly different to SmackDown there, and I liked them. I did like them. I'm still not sure about that Raw set, the whole skateboard set with the essentially just an LED ramp and a little gap where people appear. I don't know about that one, and I still don't know how I really feel about it. It feels very nothing about it. The best thing with it was when Kevin Owens ran up it and did the dive off of it. That was great. The Fox set on SmackDown I did actually like. It kind of is a little bit of reminiscent of Backlash, the Backlash unique set when it had the sort of swinging bits of metal. Kind of like that, and yeah, I liked it. Again, because I like unique, distinct sets. The shame is that we really didn't get to see him that long. Like I said, they debuted towards the end of 2019, so October 2019, and by March of 2020, we were in the Performance Center and subsequently in the Thunderdome. So these sets were around for, 3 months? Well, that's a bit longer. That's a bit longer than that, maybe 5-6 months. So no time at all. So it's a bit of a shame we won't see them again. But look, time has gone on, and WWE is treating the return of fans to programming as a real reset, not just of storylines, not just of the television, but of everything, whether it's new sets, new music, new entrance videos, everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see a total refresh of all of these things on Raw SmackDown, and that's not a bad thing. Not that that fixes anything. Monday Night Raw is not overnight going to be a good show because they've got a new set. They could bring back the Raw is War sets, bring back the Raw is War logo and music and everything like that. It still would be a 3-hour show that's not very good. So they need more than that, but you can still, you can glitter a turd, but it's still a piece of crap. And that's the case with Monday Night Raw. SmackDown, it might add to the show because it's not a bad show anyway. So I'm excited to see what they come up with, especially for Raw. They need something better than that skateboard set, to be honest. Finally, we have some information about Money in the Bank, because Money in the Bank will reportedly take place with live fans in attendance. The 2021 Money in the Bank pay-per-view will reportedly have fans in attendance for the event. As noted, WWE announced on Sunday night that Hell in the Cell, the pay-per-view will take place on Sunday, June 20th. The event usually takes place in October. It was previously reported that Money in the Bank would take place on June 20, but WWE reportedly made the decision to change the schedule this week. The Hell in a Cell announcement left the July 18 date open for Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules. Previously, it had been reported to be Extreme Rules, but plans could now change. Now, in an update, it's been reported by Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast that Money in the Bank will be held on Sunday, July 18, with fans in attendance. It was also reported last week via the same podcast that WWE plans to run events with fans from Friday, July 16, rather. I'll get the dates there in the end, through Monday, July 19. It's expected that the Friday show will be a live SmackDown TV taping, while Monday's show will be a live Raw TV taping. This also lines up with Money in the Bank being held on the same weekend with fans in attendance. Now, if this schedule change holds true, Money in the Bank would be the first WWE pay-per-view to take place with a live crowd since WrestleMania 37, unless, of course, they change plans and have live audience there for Hell in a Cell. While the report noted that there will be a live crowd at Money in the Bank on July 19, or 18 rather, there was no mention of a location. But it looks like WWE may be on the road that weekend anyway. WWE reportedly has their Thunderdome residency at the Youngling Center in Tampa Bay, Florida until early August. There's no word yet on when Extreme Rules could be held, but it's likely being moved to September or October, as SummerSlam, of course, is going to be taking place in August. So it's certainly an interesting period. There's a lot of reshuffling going on. In terms of a location, I would be surprised, like I said, if it took place in Florida still. I mean, just because they're going back to touring doesn't necessarily mean it won't be in Florida. Maybe Texas, who knows? But I think we've established at this point, live fans returning is a good thing as long as it's safe to do so, as long as there still is some social distancing or you've been vaccinated or whatever. The most important thing is and paramount is the safety of those attending. If it's safe, I don't have a problem with it, and I don't think the people that are attending do too either. So live fans returning, it's great. It's great. And it's just funny that it was planned for August, but AEW got that announcement there first. So WWE were like, right, we're going to return. We're going to return to live fans. So certainly interesting. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these news stories today? The Miz's injury at WrestleMania Backlash. Braun Strowman possibly being injured as well. WWE's possible return to Saudi Arabia for pay-per-views this year. New sets for Raw and SmackDown. And Money in the Bank featuring the return of live fans. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get to people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.